Hi students, we're going to do some function transformations today. In this video we're going to talk about horizontal and vertical transformations, both in terms of slides and stretches and flips. Alright, first off we've got this mother function. This is going to be the mother function y equals the cube root of x. It's one of a number of parent functions or mother functions that you probably should be at least a little bit familiar with, so that if you see this type of algebra, you know approximately what graph you should expect. You don't need to be able to graph this perfectly by hand, but knowing that it looks sideways like a cubic graph is really about what I'm looking for now. All right, so the other pieces of this, we've got two things being subtracted, and then we've also got a negative on the outside. Each of these is going to be a different type of transformation. We've got the negative on the outside. This is going to be a vertical flip, and it's going to be all across the x-axis. Another way to think about that is that the y coordinates are going to be multiplied by -1. The other vertical transformation we have is the -3 at the end. One of the things that's really important to know is that stuff on the outside of a function is going to govern our vertical transformations. Stuff on the inside is going to be horizontal. A -3 at the end is going to tell us that we are then, after flipping or multiplying by -1, we're sliding our graph down 3 units. The inside of this function is where all of our horizontal stuff goes. And one of the things that you might remember from talking about this in previous classes is that stuff on the inside does the opposite of what you expect. We've got x minus 1, and what that's going to do is it's going to shift the whole graph right 1 unit. One of the reasons that we can think about this doing that is that inside the function, instead of shifting the graph itself, we're shifting the axes. The axes are shifting left 1, which means the graph looks like it's going right 1. All right, let's make sense of some of these points. Looking at the center of this graph first, we're going to go 1 to the right. I didn't actually write the number 1 there. We're going to flip it, okay, but it's already on the x-axis. And then we're going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. The next point that I can see is 1, 1. I'm going to slide that 1 to the right. I'm going to flip it over and then go down 1, 2, 3. Looking at the point at the end, I'm going to go 1 over. I'm going to flip it over and then go down 1, 2, 3. So you might see that this graph is going to look something like this on this side. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go 1 to the right. I'm going to flip it and go then down 1, 2, 3. And for my last point, I'm going to go 1 to the right, flip it over the x-axis, and go down 1, 2, 3. So on this side, we end up with this rotational symmetry and the same graph we had, but shifted a little bit and flipped around. Another skill that we need to be able to use is to identify what transformations are happening based on a couple graphs. The first thing I notice when I look at this is that the spacing between the two graphs looks pretty consistent. It doesn't look like these graphs have been stretched to go from one to the other. The second thing, let's say that point's kind of hard to see. It's looking like we're going down and to the right. So if I start at 5, 0, could that be that relationship? That looks like about the same thing. Checking this peak here, that makes sense that we're going down 1 and right 1. So down 1, right 1. And what I'd like us to remember from this, so if we start with our f of x notation, down 1 is going to mean that we're subtracting 1 after the function. Right 1 means that we're subtracting 1 inside the function. Remember that anything we do inside is always going to go the opposite direction of what we expect. All right, then finally we have something that's in much more of a written form. We've got the vertex at 6, 3, and then we're doing some stuff to this parabola. All right, I'm going to look at each piece of this separately. I know the -5, that's going to be down 5. Cool, so that means that the height of the vertex is going to be at a different place. And then I've got a -x. That's something we haven't seen yet on this one. That's going to be a horizontal flip. It's going to be across the y-axis. And one way for us to think about this is we're going to multiply x values by -1. So if we've got 6, that's going to become -6 when I multiply that. And down 5 is going to go from 3 to -2. The new coordinates of the vertex are -6, -2.